All right, let's just jump right in. I want you to imagine something. Imagine we've just discovered a lost manuscript, something written on scraps of paper in a dark prison cell. It's from the absolute height of the French Revolution's reign of terror. This is the final testament of a revolutionary who's been condemned to death, and it's her last desperate attempt to get a powerful truth out into the world before the guillotine falls. That's the incredible story we're exploring today. And those are the opening words, written by the playwright and political activist Olympe de Gouges. She's writing this from her cell in 1793, knowing she only has days left. She knows she's not going to survive. But this isn't some apology letter. No, this is a continuation of her life's work.
You see, Olympe knows exactly why she's being killed. It's not just for ruffling the feathers of Robespierre's government. She is convinced her death is meant to silence a very specific, and to them, a very dangerous truth. A truth that the men leading this revolution fear more than anything else.
So what is that truth? Well, it's this. The celebrated revolution, the one that fought for liberty, equality, and fraternity, was basically a sham, a half measure. It was a revolution, she argued, that liberated only half of humanity. It secured power for men while keeping women, as she put it, in chains. And here's the brilliant part. To make her case, she doesn't just theorize or get up on a soapbox, she illustrates it masterfully. In one of the most compelling scenes in this manuscript, she just strikes up a conversation with her own prison guard and uses it to expose the real limits of this so-called freedom. So just look at how she completely flips the script on him. She asks the guard, a common man, if he can even vote in this new republic. And he admits he's not really sure. He probably doesn't meet the property and tax requirements. So in just a few sharp questions, she reveals that he, too, is not a full citizen. The revolution simply shuffled the deck, securing power for those who already had it, and leaving men like him, and of course all women, as subjects to a new set of masters. And this gets to the absolute heart of her argument. For Olympe, a revolution that completely ignores the tyranny happening inside the home is not a revolution at all. The household, she says, is the first school. It's where you either learn to be a citizen or you learn to be a tyrant. By refusing to challenge the absolute power men had over their families, the Republic was basically building its foundation on the exact same rotten principles of arbitrary power it claimed to have overthrown.
Now, this is where her analysis gets, wow, just incredibly sharp. Olympe argues that the injustice of this new republic is actually worse than the king's because it's learned how to disguise itself. It's learned to speak the language of freedom. She gives it a name: sophisticated tyranny. Think about it. Old school, honest tyranny just says you are inferior, so you must obey. Simple. But sophisticated tyranny, it says, oh, we are all equal, of course, but reason has determined that some people are just more capable of exercising rights than others. It's so much more insidious, right? Because it tries to convince the oppressed that their own exclusion is logical, that it's natural. So how does it actually work? Olympe breaks it down into what she calls the 3 forms of silence. First, and most obvious, is legal prohibition. The law just flat out forbids you from participating. Second, if you try to speak out anyway, you face social sanction. Society comes for you. You're mocked, you're called unnatural or hysterical. And third, the most brilliant and, frankly, devastating part, is definitional exclusion. They rig the game. They define political speech in a way that excludes you from the very start. I mean, this quote just nails it, right? It perfectly shows how the effects of oppression get repackaged as the justifications for it. Society denies women an education and then points to their supposed ignorance as proof that they're unfit for politics. It denies them property, then points to their economic dependence as proof they need a man's authority. The cage creates the condition, and then the condition is used to justify keeping the cage. And here's the most tragic, ironic part of it all. Olympe's own trial becomes the ultimate proof of her theory. The prosecutor doesn't even bother to argue against her political ideas. Instead, he just dismisses them as symptoms of madness. Her dissent isn't even wrong, it's just irrational. It's the product of a female mind that literally broke because it tried to think about things beyond its natural capacity. That is definitional exclusion in its purest, most brutal form. But you see, Olympe de Gouges wasn't just about tearing things down. In the final days of her life, she laid out this constructive, radical, and incredibly forward-thinking vision for what a truly just republic could actually look like. I mean, just look at this list. It is staggering for the time. Universal suffrage for all adults, marriage is a simple civil contract between equals with rights to divorce and to own property, the exact same education for boys and girls,
She was demanding things that in many parts of the world wouldn't even be on the table for another 150 years. This wasn't a minor tweak, this was a complete reimagining of society from the ground up.
And what's so powerful about this is that her vision wasn't just for women. She argued that true liberation has to be for everyone, or it's for no one. A man who is forced into this narrow role of being the patriarch, who has to perform dominance just to be seen as a man, well, he's trapped too. For her, freeing women from the prison of gender would free men right along with them.
So in her last hours, the manuscript completely shifts. It becomes a direct address to the future, a letter to her unborn descendants, which, when you think about it, means it's a letter to us. And this is where her 18th century struggle becomes startlingly, powerfully immediate. She starts with a warning. She says, if you are reading this and you are free, you have to know that it wasn't inevitable. It wasn't just some gift from history. People fought for it. People died for it. And because it was fought for, it can be lost. Freedom, she insists, isn't something you have like a trophy on a shelf. It's something you do. It's a practice every single day.
So what's the game plan? Her core advice is as radical as it gets. Do not wait around for the powerful to grant you your freedom. They never will. Freedom, she says, must be taken. It must be insisted upon. It has to be lived out, even before it's legally recognized.
And here's her playbook for fighting back against that sophisticated tyranny we were talking about. You have to reclaim the language. When they tell you that issues in the family are private and not political, you have to insist that any arrangement of power, anywhere, is political. You refuse to accept the terms of the debate when those terms are designed from the start to silence you. But her final message isn't all struggle and politics. It's also about living. Find joy, she says. Love fiercely. Create beauty. She argues that for anyone who's been reduced to just a function, a wife, a mother, a worker, the simple act of living a full, happy, self-determined life is in itself an act of rebellion. And so that's what she leaves us with, a final, provocative question that passes the torch directly into our hands. The struggle for a more just world, she says, is like a relay race, and each generation has to run its part. And looking at the world today, her question from over 200 years ago feels more urgent than ever. What is our leg of the race?